So I have a question for you. Can bad art exist? In order to answer that, I think you first need a solid definition of what art even is. To borrow a page out of every cliched speech from a wedding, funeral, or business meeting, the Oxford Dictionary defines art as the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form, such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power, which is a pretty good definition that covers a lot of ground. But for me, the most important part of that is emotion. Art is an expression of emotion. That doesn't mean that all art is necessarily being made with some grand ambition of the artist being better understood by the world. I've definitely created art with no further meaning beyond just wanting to fill the act of creating something. But I'd still say that that's an expression of emotion. There is one aspect of the Oxford definition that I do take slight issue with, and that's the inclusion of skill, because art, as an expression of emotion, has nothing to do with the artist's technical ability, just their desire to create. But if ability is going to be included in the definition, skill is definitely the right word to use, not talent. Because, to quote one of my favorite musical artists, Human Kitten, there's no such thing as talent. So scream what you feel and offer what you think, because nothing you can make will be wrong. And over time, as you create more art, your ability to do so will improve. No one is born out of the gate with any inherent talents. People definitely told me as a kid that I was naturally talented at drawing, but the reality is that I just loved to draw, so I drew a lot. And of course, someone who draws a lot is going to improve more quickly than someone who only draws occasionally. And of course, everyone improves at different rates. And on top of that, everyone's idea of what is and isn't good is subjective, but everyone has the ability to create art. Feeling like you aren't talented or skilled enough to do so is just the result of living in a world that's scared to allow people to be creative and express themselves. So I think it's probably pretty obvious by now that I fall into the camp of there being no such thing as bad art. Art is an expression of emotion, subjective, as is just about everything in this world, and even art that isn't appreciated by the artist can still have value found in it by the audience. But what about corporate art? Art that isn't created to express emotion, but rather to try and sell you something. Wouldn't that be bad art? It's kind of missing the point, isn't it? Would it not be at least morally corrupt art? Well, I'd argue that it isn't even art at all. I went to school for graphic design, and one lesson we were taught was not to approach graphic design as art. Graphic designers are not artists, they're creative problem solvers. Yes, it's a creative industry, but the end result isn't art. It's a creative solution to a problem. But of course, in reality, nothing is ever as black and white as it seems in a classroom, and there definitely is graphic design out there that is artful, and corporate art that has emotion expressed within it. But in general, for the sake of this argument, I wouldn't consider that art. But even if you were to lump it into the art category, it still wouldn't be bad art, because even objectively bad design can still be appreciated. I mean, I certainly tend towards making designs that go against design conventions with my own personal work. I just like to shoot myself in the foot, you know? I mean, just look at my thumbnails. They're all badly designed, but it's intentional because I think it's funny and I like the aesthetic. Art is something that anyone can create regardless of their familiarity with any given medium. If you want to draw, pick up a pencil. If you want to film something, grab your phone. If you want to make music, start singing. Nothing you can make will be wrong. Do I sound like some pretentious artsy hipster in my argument? Well, that may not be entirely wrong, but to badly paraphrase something that Joel Haver said on his second channel, how is it pretentious to say that anybody can make art? Is that not, by definition, like the opposite of pretentiousness? Is it not significantly more pretentious to say that art can only be created by a handful of supposedly more capable individuals? Art is in the hands of the people. Anybody can make art. Which leads me to briefly touch on AI art, something that tech bros and the like to argue is putting art into the hands of the non-artist. But art always has and always will be in the hands of the people. AI art is, if anything, doing the exact opposite. It's taking art out of the hands of the people. I mean, there definitely could be a place for AI as a tool within the digital art making process, and definitely within the design process. I mean, the generative fill tool in Photoshop has been around for a while, and it's an immensely helpful tool. But that's exactly what it should be seen as a tool, not a replacement for the artist. And if you go back to the original definition that I started this video with, AI art is, by that definition, not even art at all. Art is an expression of emotion and inherently human. If you want to make art, make it. There never was anything stopping you other than yourself. The advent of AI gaining the ability to threaten artists and designers' jobs rather than being developed as a useful tool is not some empowering movement bringing art to the people. It's a tool that's being horribly misused by money-hungry corporations and individuals who fundamentally fail to understand what makes art art, and just see AI as a cheaper replacement over hiring an actual designer or artist. But that's a whole other discussion. For the sake of this video, AI art can just be written off entirely. It's not art. And there is no such thing as bad art. So go out there and make something. Share it with your family and friends, or never show it to anyone at all. But if you have the desire to create, to express yourself, do it. Nothing you can make will be wrong.